21 lessons for the 21st century. Part 4. Truth. If you feel overwhelmed and confused by the global predicament, you are on the right track. Global process has become too complicated for any single person to understand. How then can you know the truth about the world and avoid falling victim to propaganda and misinformation? Chapter 15. Ignorance. You know less than you think. The preceding chapters surveyed some of the most important problems and developments for the present era, from the overhyped threat of terrorism to the underappreciated threat of technological disruption. If you are left with the nagging feeling that this is too much, then you cannot process it all. You are absolutely right. No person can. In the last few centuries, liberal thought developed immense trust in the rational individual. It depicted individual humans as independent rational agents and had made these mythical creature the base of modern society. Democracy is founded on the idea that the voter knows best. Free market capitalism believes that the customer is always right. And liberal education teaches students to think for themselves. It's a mistake, however, to put so much trust in the rational individual. Post-colonial and feminist thinker has pointed out that this rational individual may well be a chauvinistic Western fantasy, glorifying the autonomy and power of upper-class white men. As noted earlier, behavioral economists and evolutionary psychologists have demonstrated that the most human decisions are based on emotional reaction and heuristic shortcut rather than a rational analysis, and while our emotions had heuristics were perhaps suitable for dealing with life in the Stone Age, they are woefully inadequate in the Silicon Age. Not only rationality, but individuality too is a myth. Humans rarely think for themselves. Rather, we think in group, just as it takes a tribe to raise a child, and also take a tribe to invest a tool, solve a conflict, or cure a disease. No individual know everything it takes to build a cathedral, an atom bomb, or an aircraft. What gave Homo sapiens an edge over all other animals and turned us into the master of the planet was not our individual rationality, but our unparalleled ability to think together in large groups. Individual humans know embarrassingly little about the world, and as history has progressed, they have come to know less and less. A hunter-gatherer in Stone Age knew how to make her own clothes, how to start a fire, how to hunt a rabbit, and how to escape a lion. We think we know far more today, but as individuals, we actually know far less. We rely on the expertise of others for almost all our need. In one humbling experiment, people were asked to evaluate how well they understand the working of the ordinary zipper. Most people confidently reply that they understand zipper very well. After all, they use them all the time. They were then asked to describe in as much detail as possible all the steps involved in the jeepers operation. Most people have no idea. This is what Stephen Solomon and Philip Pombach have termed the knowledge illusion. You think we know a lot, even though individually we know very little, because we treat knowledge in the mind of others as if it were our own. This is not necessarily bad. Our reliance on group thinking has made us masters of the world, and the knowledge illusion enables us to go through life without being caught in an impossible effort to understand everything ourselves. From an evolutionary perspective, trusting in the knowledge of others has worked extremely well for Homo sapiens. Yet, like many other human traits that made sense in past ages but caused trouble in the modern age, the knowledge illusion has its downside. The world is becoming ever more complex, and people fail to realize just how ignorant they are of what's going on. Consequently, some people who know next to nothing about meteorology or biology nevertheless propose politics regarding climate change and genetically modified crops, while others hold extremely strong views about what should be done in Iraq and Ukraine without being able to locate these countries on a map. People rarely appreciate their ignorance because they look themselves inside an echo chamber of like-minded friends and self-confirming news feed, where their beliefs are constantly reinforced and seldom challenged. Providing people with more and better information is unlikely to improve matters. Scientists hope to dispel wrong views by better science education, and pundits hope to sway public opinion on issues such as Obamacare or global warming by presenting the public with accurate facts and expert reports. Such hopes are grounded in a misunderstanding of how humans actually think. Most of our views are shaped by communal groupthink rather than individual rationality, and we hold on to these views due to group loyalty. Bombarding people with facts and exposing their individual ignorance is likely to backfire. Most people don't like too many facts, and they certainly don't like to feel stupid. Don't be so sure that you can convince Tea Party supporters of the truth of global warming by presenting them with a sheet of statistical data. The power of group thinking is so pervasive that it's difficult to break its hold, even when its views seem to be rather arbitrary. For example, in the United States, right-wing conservatives tend to care far less about things such as pollution and endangered species than left-wing progressives, which is why Louisiana has a much weaker environmental regulation than Massachusetts. We are used to this situation, so we take it for granted, but it's really quite surprising. One would think that conservatives would care far more about the conservation of the world ecological order and about protecting their ancestral land, forests, and rivers. In contrast, progressives would be expected to be far more open to radical change to the countryside, especially if the aim to speed up progress and increase the human standard of living. However, once the party line has been set on this issue by various historical quirks, it became second nature for conservative to dismiss concern about polluted river and disappearing birds, while left-wings progressive tend to fear any disruption to the old ecological order. Even scientists are not immune to the power of groupthink. In fact, scientists who believe that fact can change public opinion may themselves to the victim of scientific groupthink. The scientific community believes in the efficacy of fact, and those loyal to the community continue to believe that they can win public debate by throwing the right fact around, despite much empirical evidence to the contrary. Similarly, the liberal belief in individual rationality may itself be the product of liberal groupthink. In one of the climatic moment of Monty Python's Life of Brian, a huge crowd starry-eyed follower mistakes Brian for the Messiah. Brian tells his discipline, "You don't need to follow me. You don't need to follow anybody. You've got to think for yourselves. You are all individual. You are all different." The enthusiastic crowd then chant in unison, "Yes, you are all individual. Yes, you are all different." Monty Python was prodding the counterculture orthodoxy of the 1960s, but the point may be true of the belief in national individualism in general. Modern democracy are full of crowds shouting in unison, "Yes, the voter knows best. Yes, the customer is always right."